Hi everyone, we're now going to move into looking at foreign aid and the role foreign aid can play in promoting economic development. In this video I'm just going to focus on the major types of aid and the differences in aid as well. The reason why I'm not really going to go into how it can promote development is because we've already covered how an injection into an economy can be used to fund development. So I'll touch on it briefly, but the main intention of this video is looking at different types of aid, which can be questioned in an exam. So what is aid? What's the aim of aid? Aid is supposed to fill the savings gap left in developing countries. We know that a lack of savings is a major characteristic of developing countries and can be a major barrier to development. Well, aid attempts to fill that gap. Not by the use of market forces. Aid ignores market forces and is essentially a transfer of money. It's a grant given by either a government to a developing country or given by a non-government organisation to a developing country. The idea, though, is to promote economic development. And like I said briefly, I'll talk about what those outcomes can be. So it very much depends. There are no forceful conditions set by a donor country on how aid money has to be spent. But surely donor countries would want that money to be spent efficiently on promoting development outcomes. So that could well be, using the money to spend on building infrastructure, on promoting the healthcare and education system in developing countries. Maybe it's in the building of ports, and airports, roads and bridges, telecommunications, maybe improving sanitation facilities, maybe improving the development of internet-related services in the developing country. Whatever it might be, these outcomes would be development outcomes. And that's how a donor country would hope that money would be spent. So as long as you talk in theory about how aid can be spent on promoting development, you'll score marks. Most likely in an exam, you'll be given a case study to apply aid to. And in that example, we have very specific ways in which aid money has been spent, or of the major limitations to aid, and you can focus on that. But in theory, as long as that money is being spent on development outcomes, you'll score marks. So let's focus on the different types of aid. Aid can take two different forms. It can be official, so maybe that's one government, one donor country government, providing aid to a developing country government. That's official aid. We call that official development assistance, the aid that we are very accustomed to and know quite well, ODA, as it's abbreviated to. Aid can also be unofficial, so it can be via a non-government organisation like Oxfam, who decide to spend money and divert money into a developing country. That's unofficial aid, but that also is still aid. Okay, so two different forms of aid. Now the types of aid can also vary. Aid can be humanitarian based, it can be development based. Aid is not always just for development. We know that there might be wars or political instability in countries, in which case aid money might be diverted to developing countries to help out in those times of conflict. There are also maybe natural disasters that take place, and we know as well, in times of natural disasters, lots of foreign governments distribute aid to these countries to help out. Humanitarian aid is all about alleviating short-term suffering. So if there is any short-term issues in a developing country, humanitarian aid may be sent over to alleviate this suffering. And that can take three forms: food aid, medical aid, and emergency aid, where emergency aid is just providing emergency lighting, electricity, cooking facilities, that kind of thing. Development aid is where we're going to kind of focus. Development aid is all about achieving the outcomes I briefly mentioned before, all the development outcomes that we're very used to. And it can take various forms, 5 major forms we need to be aware of. It can take the form of long-term loans from one government to another. And those loans will often come with very low rates of interest and can be paid back in the long term, so maybe over a 20-year period. Aid can also take the form of tied aid. Tied aid is where money is sent to a developing country, with a caveat though, that imports of certain goods and services can only take place and can only be purchased from the donor country itself. So in that sense, there is a benefit for the donor country involved here as well. So tied aid is that. Project aid as a form of development aid. The World Bank is a big promoter of project aid, whereby money is given to developing countries specifically for the funding of key infrastructure projects, like building roads, like building bridges. Technical assistance aid is all about the development and advancement of technology in a developing country. So again, this could be through money being used to subsidize the innovation in given firms. It could be used to subsidize research and development. It can be used to promote advancements in capital, advancements in technology in developing countries. It can also be with organizations or governments sending people who are technical experts, technology experts, to come and actually promote the development of technology in developing countries. So that's technical assistance aid there. And also commodity aid, so countries that are looking to improve their productivity, that are looking to regain competitiveness, can get commodity aid, where money is used to buying commodities, lowering cost of production, aiding competitiveness, aiding future growth and productivity. And just to finish, we can classify it in two major ways as well, and this is a very common exam question, the difference between bilateral aid and multilateral aid. Bilateral aid is very simply when aid is given from one government to another government, from a donor country to a developing country government. That's what we call bilateral aid. Multilateral aid is when aid is diverted through an international organisation like the World Bank, like the IMF. They will then decide who needs aid the most, and aid will be distributed to countries that need it the most. Okay, so the difference between the two, multilateral aid is when aid is actually diverted through an international organisation like the IMF, like the World Bank. Bilateral aid is direct aid, sent from one donor country government to a developing country government with nothing in between. Okay, that's the end of this video. So all the different types of aid are there. You understand where aid money needs to be spent to achieve development outcomes. Great. Like I said, in an essay situation, you probably need to apply this more, but you'll be given the application. Also bear in mind, there are major limitations to aid as well, and problems with relying on aid for development. That'll be the next video, so stay tuned, watch that, very important stuff. But thanks for watching this one. I'll see you next time.